Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network. And welcome back, everybody. I'm pretty amazed every time we get together with him. And even in the past, we've gotten such great feedback from students that are looking to do what he's done for many years as a regional planner, connected to the University of Pittsburgh, decades long in his career. I've learned so much even about how the infrastructure of cities and municipalities work. And we're going to have him back in here. He's our man of the year. Richard Golden Bickel Jr. is on the program. Hey, Richard, how you doing today?
Very good. Thank you.
Oh, it's great to have you back here. I want to start with some feedback we got from Kelsey. She's in Dallas, Texas. Checking in at instantfeedbacksteve@gmail.com. And you can also reach out to us anytime on any of our lines. One of them, 631-319-6275. She says, my son graduates next year. He has a passion for the way a city is put together. I want to direct him, but not sure on how to do that. Can you offer any advice or help out?
Well, I would, first of all, if he wants general background information about planning, he can look up the American Planning Association, APA, which is the repository of lots of studies and other things that talk about planning. They also accredit schools for planning degree programs, and they have criteria about what those programs should involve. So there's plenty of resources out there, and if you want more specifics, you could pose questions to the APA, and they might be able to give you information resources.
Gotcha. Yeah, I would be lost if my son came, graduating high school in a year and asking those questions. And I also wonder, even a guidance counselor, this is a specialized field. It's one thing to go into IT. My son personally is going into cybersecurity. I know a little bit, but not a lot. But certainly urban planning, way out of my wheelhouse. I do believe we have a call. Hi, can you hear us?
Yes, I can. It's Terrence from University of Iowa. I was just really enjoying listening to you guys. A friend of mine told me about, the show, and he was telling me about urban planning. And I wanted to know what was the hardest part about the urban planning of getting into it.
Well, I started at Pitt wanting to be a doctor, and then I took chemistry, and I realized I wasn't going to be a doctor, and I took an urban geography course in my junior year, and was taught by a professor in the planning school, and it turned me on to the field of urban and regional planning. And so I was fortunate enough to get admitted to the graduate program at Pitt and stayed there to get my master's degree. What I would say the hardest part is the adjustment from a physical planning background and also to incorporate social concerns. Planning is both land use and transportation, but it's also dealing with people. And you are going to be talking to a variety of folks, and if you're at a community meeting, you have to listen to their concerns because new development proposals, whether they're affordable housing or traditional development, will be viewed as a threat by some property owners, especially if it's close to where they live. So I think dealing with people is an important skill, and you can't just expect to walk into a room and say, this is the greatest plan that's ever been developed. You must go along with it. You can't do that. You have to listen to their concerns and perhaps make changes to the plan.
It's a fascinating field, and we take it for granted, not realizing, what's going on behind the scenes there. Terrence, is there one aspect of planning that interests you, whether it's, transportation, housing, flow of even traffic, or even, sewage systems?
Well, it's really the transportation.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Right.
Which is a big deal, and getting even more challenging. And I don't do politics, but I'm going to say new administration, lots of cutbacks. I got to believe lots of programs are going to be just defused, at least for the interim. What are your feelings on that? When you look at the current situation, Richard, and some of the programs being shut down.
Well, I think it's a threat to the future of urban areas, and it's important to have a planning perspective. Most communities endeavor to make a 20-year long-range plan, and that incorporates population and employment numbers. It also looks at the development pattern and has policies about whether to encourage growth in certain areas or to maintain the current pattern. And of course, in a redevelopment area, it's important to develop strategies to deal with improving the community. There are a lot of challenges in the planning profession. It's not as well known as engineering, which is easier to understand at one level because you're building something. Planning is developing relationships, dealing with people's concerns, and putting it in context with available funding and a long-range plan for the future of that particular community.
You said a word that resonates with me in our conversations, and that is relationships. If you're in the planning aspect, you have to be forming those relationships with, it could be leaders, legislators in the municipality, the city, but also the relationship with the public. You're connected to them, whether you want to be or not.
Yes, and you have to listen to what they say. You have to try to explain concepts that they may not know about, and provide information that they can use, and at the same time be prepared for feedback that is not always positive for your planning concept. And the elected officials of the community will be making the final decision on whether development goes ahead. So you've got to walk a tightrope between citizens' concerns, the elected officials of the community, and the technical issues that are going to arise from a given proposal.
For you personally, over all these years, and thinking back to, in your mind, flashing back to a lot of the projects that you worked on, you were involved with, even maybe the ones that didn't transpire, because sometimes that happens too. What was your favorite part? Was it the infrastructure, like we said with Terrence? Was it the transportation aspect? What do you feel was, when it came across your desk and you said, wow, I'm looking forward to working on that one, was there a common denominator there of the aspect that you enjoyed the most?
I think I started out at a county planning commission with local government work on zoning, comprehensive plans, subdivisions. I found that very rewarding, and you could, in some ways, see immediate results, whether a project was going to be approved or not. Then I switched to the regional level, and at the regional level got much more involved in transportation policy, not the nuts and bolts of transportation projects, but policies on where transportation would be located, transportation improvements would be located that would benefit the community, or were part of a regional plan that would include that community. And that's the debate now, is the funding for those kinds of improvements is running up against changing policies in Washington and elsewhere. So planning is always dealing with those kinds of concerns, and you can make a great plan, but if there's no money to implement it, then it's just going to sit on the shelf.
Were there situations where you became, not to be negative, but it's reality, where you became a bit frustrated with something that you believed in, but unfortunately it didn't materialize for whatever reason? Maybe it was, public opposition. Maybe it was, not enough funding. Did you have a few of those that you encountered in your reign?
Yes. As an example, I was working at the Regional Planning Commission, but at the same time working with the local government to implement, I hoped, a 300-space parking garage that was next to a train station. And that's what's called transit-oriented development, where you locate new projects adjacent to the train station so that the ridership of that station can be improved, and you reduce cars, and also the real estate development value of that property becomes greater because there's going to be new projects located there or adjacent to it. This parking garage was supposed to be a potential boon to the train station and the adjacent area, but at a public meeting that I went to present the project, it was roundly condemned by local business owners and others who felt that it would destroy their neighborhood, and the project was not supported by the township commissioners, and it was defeated. That station is currently being improved, but the parking garage at the moment, I don't think that's part of it. But the station was long overdue to be improved, and that construction project is underway.
Do you go, when you're driving around, in your area or the areas that you serve, Richard, do you look at some of the things that happened over your career and say, that was a good one, I'm proud of that one, or remember the time we did that one over there?
Well, a nearby station called Paoli went through this same kind of thing about redesigning the station so that it functioned better and perhaps encourage some development. But this was an area that was pretty well developed and had some environmental issues, and all those have been resolved with the project completion. I think that project has been completed for about a year, and it's a complex project involving highway improvements, the public transit station, and remediation of some environmental issues, all in the same general area. And so you could say it's a success, but considering it started in the 90s, it's been a long time getting there.
What was the longest project that you recall working on, for whatever the reason might be? Whether it was delays in construction, delays in funding, delays in approval, anything that comes to mind?
Well, Paoli was certainly one of the longest smaller scale projects. The completion of major highway improvements or transit improvements is difficult, and there are so many implementation obstacles, ranging from construction barriers, environmental concerns, and public reaction. And so, for example, the second tunnel that's supposed to be developed now and funded into Manhattan from New Jersey is finally got the federal approvals, I believe, unless they're rescinded. And that project's taken years. The Second Avenue subway in Manhattan, which was supposed to go to the Bronx a long time ago, is finally getting moving ahead. But that project is about 100 years old in terms of the ideas to put a line there and what's finally taking place. The transportation projects are very expensive, involve a lot of engineering challenges and environmental challenges, and eventually public reactions. And so they take time. And as they take time, costs increase. And federal or state policies on whether that project is worthwhile can also change, which is what's happening in certain cases now.
Yeah, I never thought of it that way. The longer you wait, for whatever the reason is, the clock is running. The meter is running on the project. Wow. I'm fascinated in talking with you. It's almost as if the curtain is being pulled back on all the stuff that we pay taxes on, things that, drives our lives, really, when you think about, this is, you get in your car, you drive somewhere, you're dealing with urban planning. You seek to buy a home. There was some type of urban planning involved in that. Ultimately, pretty much everything that we have, public transportation, it was involved there. It's pretty much every aspect of our lives. Have you ever thought of it that way?
I guess sometimes I'm happy that I got into this field, and I think I have had limited impact, but at least I've had some impact. And if I had gone into medicine, I might not have been as successful as I had hoped to be. And I certainly didn't do well in chemistry.
Yep.
And that was one ingredient when I was in high school I didn't even think about. I just thought about helping patients and working in a hospital, etc. But you've got to know, just like an engineer has to know formulas and details. To be a doctor, you've got to know a lot of stuff.
Way out of my wheelhouse, wouldn't even consider it for a second. I respect, but I'd never be able to do it. And you just even, brought back a memory in the area that I'm in. There I'm on Long Island, surrounded by water. On the South Shore, not far from where I am at this moment, there's been big challenges with the water table and clean water and sewage. And that has been going on for years, many. And there's been finally some approval, some funding coming through to improve that situation with, and I don't even know, it runs way deeper than I'm even, aware of. But even a situation like that, I mentioned all those things, transportation, housing, clean water involves urban planning. Just, I never connected those dots. There was a lot involved there. A lot of input from homeowners and residents, and now you're talking about cutting up roads to, change the flow of sewage and all of that. Really runs deep. As always, great having you on here. I learned so much, and I just want to share with everybody, instantfeedbacksteve@gmail.com. If you have a question about urban planning, whether it's on the education side of it or just in general, please reach out. And we'll throw those questions to Richard next time we get together. Appreciate it, Richard. Thank you again for being here.
Okay. Thanks, Steve.
Thank you. We'll be right back. Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Adopt US Kids presents Multiple Choice Parenting.
Your daughter just had her first breakup.
Do you A, put yourself in her shoes?
How could he do this to you? And for Sheila, she has split ends.
B, console her?
Oh, sweetie, this is going to happen a lot. 4, maybe 5 more times before you get married.
C, take charge?
Got to get this all straightened out. Give a little talking to, man to man, mano a mano. Hey, Steve! Is now a good time? No? Okay, no problem. Bye.
Or D, help her find a new boyfriend?
I know a great place to meet boys. The internet. Nice, single boys. Never mind. How about some ice cream?
As a parent, there are no perfect answers. But you don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will love you just the same.
For more information on how you can adopt, visit adoptuskids.org. A public service announcement from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.